Welcome everyone. My name is Sarah Ray from the Bloomfield Public Library. Thank you for joining us for New Year Fitness. I'm going to turn this over to Kirsten to get us started.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, everybody. So nice to be here. My name is Kirsten and I work at Seabury. That's actually where I am right now. We're in one of our 3 studios that we have here. This is our yoga studio, as you can see. So I think probably most of you are from the area, so you've heard about Seabury before, but it's an active life care community. We take people ages 50 and over, and they have all levels of care here: skilled nursing, memory care, independent living, you name it. So I've been here for about 8 years, and I am a personal trainer and a group fitness instructor. So I'm the senior wellness coordinator here. Can't believe I've been here for 8 years. I love it here. Can't imagine not being anywhere else. So today we're going to talk a little bit about just sort of, it's the new year. Every year I think we go through this. It's like it's January again, and I need to think about my fitness goals or my health goals. So Sarah and I thought we're coming up with a lot of ideas of what to talk about. And we thought this would be a good time to just sort of get everybody's brain and body focused back on just health and wellness. So I have a little bit of a presentation that we're going to do, which is just some information. And I can certainly send that to Sarah afterwards if people want to have the slides. There's not too much writing, but sometimes it's nice to read it on your own. So we can certainly do that after if we want. So I'm going to share my screen. So bear with me for one moment while I get myself set up. Okay, almost ready here. Okay, so hopefully you guys see my screen. All right, wonderful. So just close myself off here. All right, so just a little bit more background about me. I have a Bachelor of Science in Sports Administration and Exercise Science. I'm a NASM certified personal trainer. I am a AFA group fitness instructor. I'm an ACE senior fitness specialist. I also teach Tai Chi for arthritis, which is a really awesome program. I also am a Reiki master as well. And I also am a yoga instructor. So all that good stuff. All right. Oops, sorry about that. Let's go back one slide. All right, so I also want to just let everybody know that I have a little bit of health history myself. So if you're someone who struggles with some health issues, I completely understand where you're coming from. I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism in 2015, excuse me. And I was also diagnosed with Sjogren's in 2017. Even as a fitness person and an athlete per se, former athlete, I should say, I've had to struggle and work through a lot of weight gain and fatigue and joint pain just with my own life. And it did affect my professional life as well. Because it's really difficult when we're struggling with these things, and this is what I do. So I had to really get out of my own way and get out of my own head and try to go back to basics and really realize that exercise is not just about losing weight. It's about giving yourself really the best chance that you have to be the healthiest version of yourself. And I just always like to lead with that because, you're not alone if you struggle with health issues. Even if you don't struggle with health issues, I think a lot of us have struggled or are still struggling with weight loss, weight gain, not working out enough, working out too much. Maybe our relationship with food isn't great, So I just want to let you know you're not alone. You really aren't. And we all struggle in different ways. So just of course, a little disclaimer, please, please, please consult with your doctor before beginning any exercise program. they know you better than I know you. I'm just here today to give some general advice and some general ideas. Obviously, those of you who have any other challenges, please check with your doctors first, okay? So a couple other tips. Think about creating a lifestyle change. It's not just like, okay, I'm going to eat, salmon and kale for the next 7 days, and then I'm going to do this. And then after 3 months, I'm done. It's more than that. It's a lifestyle change. And I think once we can think about it in that way, which also helped me, it just makes it a little bit easier to kind of get yourself going. So let's change that view. Okay, there we go. Now I can see everybody. So I came up with the 3 E's. It should be easy to complete, it should be effective, and it should be enjoyable. You shouldn't be in the gym or at your house dreading every single second of what you're doing, because you're not going to stick to it. And consistency really is the key, for sure. Maybe it's not 7 days every single week, but maybe over the course of 7 months, you've worked out 3 days a week, or you've, went for a walk 4 days a week, or it's just being consistent. That's really the most important thing. All right, so I'm not going to touch upon nutrition very much because I am not a dietitian. I am not a nutritionist. So obviously people who have certain conditions or questions, I would definitely recommend consulting with someone who is either board certified or has the qualifications to really tailor what you need, which is not what I'm going to do tonight. But I find personally that most diets don't necessarily work. They're a little too restrictive. And again, it's hard to stick with it. I find personally for me that tracking what I eat can be helpful. You can do it old school, pen and paper, or on apps. I've done Weight Watchers. I've done lots of things. MyFitnessPal is a free app. You can certainly check that out on your own. And also, we're eating to fuel our body and our movement. If you can kind of think about it that way, I think it can help change your overall relationship with dieting, which I hate that word. So I don't even use it very much anymore. But if you think about it that way, again, it can change your whole mindset. All right. So just good information to know. 1 pound of fat is 3,500 calories. So theoretically, and I say that because it doesn't always work that way, if you can manage to sort of cut out 500 calories a day for 7 days, in theory, you would lose 1 pound a week. Now, that doesn't mean you're eating 500 calories less. It means you've just decreased that. Maybe you've been exercising. Maybe you've changed what you're eating a little bit. So it's more nutrient dense, but not necessarily high in calories. So again, don't want to touch too much on nutrition, but I think that's a good fact to know that has helped me in my own personal journey of just where I am. What am I eating? What should I be eating? What do I feel comfortable eating? Just good information to think about. All right, so a little bit about fitness. A lot of people say they want to do cardio or they want to do weight training. Which is better? Well, it's kind of a trick question. When I say cardio, I mean cardiovascular exercise. So walking, swimming, biking, hiking, things like that. You do need both for sure. Sometimes they're combined, sometimes they're separate. Just some key points on those 2 separate forms of exercise. Your weight training will increase your muscle mass, which is good, because you'll be ending up burning some more calories at rest, which is good, because again, that all goes into your sort of daily calorie amount. And studies have shown after weight training, your metabolism can be increased for up to 38 hours post exercise. And it also really reshapes your body. More on that in 1 second. I have a personal story about that, but I want to talk about cardiovascular next. of course, healthy heart benefits. It's fun. It makes you feel good. It's uplifting. It's the endorphins. It's wonderful. You might burn some more calories during that workout, meaning you're walking, you're biking, anything like that, even stationary biking, ellipticals, all those machines, depending on your intensity. You can see weight loss, absolutely, for sure, but it's not always going to reshape your body or your body composition. So back to my little tidbit. I really focused over the past 8 months to sort of reshape my whole fitness routine. I've lost a little bit of weight, but not as much as it appears because I've really focused on my weight training. So for example, I might be a lower size or a smaller size, even though my weight has stayed almost kind of the same, if that makes sense. So again, just food for thought, because it's not always about just losing weight. It's not. We want to be healthy and fit and strong, and that's the most important thing than the number on the scale. So just some quick guidelines. ACSM is the American College of Sports Medicine. They're kind of like, they're very important in the fitness world. They have a lot of information. They work with a lot of like CDC and different organizations like that. So they're very well respected. So usually we as in fitness professionals get all of our information from them. So all healthy adults, this is right from their website, 18 to 65. Now, if you're over 65, you can still count in this information. Most of the folks I work with are over 65, and we still recommend this for them as well. So if you're over 18 to 65, you should participate in a moderate intensity aerobic physical activity for a minimum of 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Now, that's a lot for some of us. So again, this is a general recommendation. Some of us might need a lot less than that. Maybe we do 15 minutes, maybe we need more than that. Depends on how we are physically at the moment. So you kind of take that recommendation and tailor it for what works for you at this time. If it's 10 minutes of activity, 3 days a week, and that's where you start, that's absolutely fine. That's just the general, again, recommendation for most average healthy individuals. If you're a little more fit or you're used to intense activities, you could do a little bit less. So the more intense you do, you don't have to do it every single day. You can do it maybe 3 or 4 days a week as opposed to most days of the week. And also the other recommendation is every adult should perform activities that maintain or increase muscular strength and endurance a minimum of 2 days a week. So that's basically just your weight training, right? Okay. So that's the general recommendations. And again, you tailor it to what your needs are and where you currently are in your journey. All right, so this is kind of a lot of information, but I wanted to talk about it because it is a good thing to know as far as your weight training goes. So we have something called progressive overload, which basically is a fancy term for meaning you're challenging yourself. Every few weeks you might do, a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. So that's basically what that means. I'm not going to read that whole slide because it's a lot of words, but simply put, in order to get stronger, you have to continually work harder. Kind of makes sense. Our bodies are very smart, so they adapt very quickly. So if you were doing a bicep curl, which we're going to go over afterwards, just up and down, and you did, 3 pounds for 2 years, at some point, that's not going to be doing anything anymore. You need to increase to 4 pounds and then maybe to 5 pounds or, and so on. And there's other ways to challenge yourself, which is on the next slide, which is a little easier to read. So how to challenge yourself? You can increase your resistance. So you're lifting more weight. And more weight is relative. Some of us are going to lift 10 pounds. Some of us are going to lift 2 pounds, but whatever your challenge is, that's what's important. You can also increase your repetitions. So maybe if you started at 8 repetitions, Now you're at 10 repetitions, then you're at 12 repetitions. You know, you kind of can increase that way. You can also increase the volume. So when you first start out, maybe you're doing, you count to 10 and then you're done. As you continue along, maybe you count to 10, you take a 30-second rest, and then you count to 10 again. So that's another way you can increase your challenge. So number 4 on here, you can increase the frequency of your exercise. So meaning maybe 3 days a week, and I'll just use the bicep curl so you can see my arm, maybe 3 days a week, you're counting to 10. And then, you know, that's another way you can increase. And you can also decrease your rest time. So if you were resting, you know, you count to 10 and you rested for a minute, then you could count to 10 and you rest for 30 seconds. So you have a little bit less rest time in between. I know that's a lot of information, but that's just sort of easy ways that you can increase your challenge that are fairly reasonable to work around. All right. There we go. All right. We just missed a slide. Hold on, let me check. Sometimes it bumps me quickly. Nope, we didn't. Good. All right. So now what? The biggest thing I think for most folks is, you know, getting started. Getting started is really hard for all of us, including trainers. Trust me, there's every day we all come in, we're like, did you work out yesterday? No, I didn't. So it's not just you, you're not alone, you know, you're not alone. It's challenging for everyone to stay on the wagon. And, you know, we just finished the holidays. You know, it's tough. It's tough to get back on track. Goal setting can be really important. Even if you write stuff down, that's wonderful. If it's in your head, that's okay. If you tell a friend, that's even better. Short-term goals and long-term goals can be good. You know, short-term, maybe I want to climb the stairs without getting out of breath. Long-term, you know, maybe I want to go walk outside on a hill. You know, there's ways you can kind of change your goals. Short-term can keep you focused and long-term can keep you on the wagon, but they also need to be realistic. You know, and we all need to meet ourselves where we're at. You know, what can we actually commit to? Are we going to commit to 7 days a week in the gym? Probably not. I'm not committing to that. So, you know, it's starting and realizing and acknowledging where you are and going from there. Maybe you're coming back after a surgery. Maybe you've been sick. You know, maybe you have a health challenge. Maybe you've been diagnosed with osteoporosis. You know, there's so many things that can happen. So you have to meet yourself where you're at. And that goes with nutrition as well. Again, I'm not going to touch too much upon that, but, you know, if just for example, if you're someone that has, you know, I don't know, a soda every day at 3 o'clock, it's like, okay, maybe we'll have a soda 3 days a week instead of 5 days a week. Maybe that's not the best example, but you kind of hear what I'm saying. So meet yourself where you're at, because you're going to be more successful if you start out in a realistic manner. You know, if you're not a morning person, don't sign up for a 6 a.m. class, you know, those kind of things. And then really find your puzzle pieces. I kind of made this up as I was making this slide, but what are your puzzle pieces? Find them and then put them together. You know, maybe it's nutrition, maybe it's fitness, and why you're doing it. You know, those can be really helpful. And I'm someone who writes things down. So if that works for you as well, because you've written it down, you can look at it, you know, journaling, all those things, if you're into that, or at least keep it in your head so that you can refer back to it. So perfect. So let's take just a pause moment. I'm going to adjust my my computer, but if anyone has any questions, please let me know. That was a lot of talking on my part. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'm just going to get myself reorganized here. but feel free to shout anything out or type in the chat and Sarah can tell me, and then we'll get moving. Now you don't have to move. You can sit on your chair and watch me. If you want to get up and try a few things, you can. If you want to take notes, that's fine too. So I'm just going to reorganize myself a little bit. So one moment. All right. That'll be okay. I'll make sure to talk really loud.
I'm just going to stop sharing your screen, Kirsten, so we have you big on the screen.
Oh, you want me to do that? Okay, sure.
Yeah, I got it.
Thank you, Sarah. Yep. You're so good.
Practice.
All righty. So I'm just going to change my view real quick so I can see. Tanya, I see your question. Do you consider yoga strength? Or, you know what, that's a very good question. And sometimes things, so Tanya just asked a question, do you consider yoga strength or cardio? So a lot of things are going to overlap. So, you know, if you're sitting in a chair and doing weights, that's pretty much just plain old strength training, which is good, but it's not necessarily going to get your heart rate up. So what we consider cardiovascular fitness is anything that gets your heart pumping, right? When you feel it, like if you walk up a hill or if you're walking outside or you're doing a stationary bike, something like that. You're dancing. Tanya is an excellent Zumba instructor, by the way, but that's a side note. So anything that gets your heart pumping. There is a formula for your target heart rate. I debated about putting that in because everyone is really different and it does go by your age. So if you're a Google person, you can Google target heart rate and you'll get the formula. It's 220 minus your age. And then you multiply that number by, usually we say 60 to 80%. So, and I'm not a math person. So if you're like, what are you talking about? I'm with you, but just Google it. So you'll see the formula and it comes out with a heart rate range of what you want to be in. So I'm just going to throw a number out. So maybe your 60% of your maximum heart rate is, 100. I'm just throwing out a number. And then 80% of your maximum heart rate is, 130 or something like that. There's a range there. Again, if you have heart problems, if you have a pacemaker, if you have some of those concerns, always check with your doctor and your cardiologist, especially because he or she may want you at a more specific range than what the calculation will tell you. Does that make sense? Okay. But for most of us, we're just looking to get our heart rate elevated. So sometimes yoga does that. Absolutely. Sometimes strength training does that. If you're kind of going boom, 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 right from one thing to the next, that certainly is going to get your heart rate up. So sometimes things do overlap. So, which can be nice. So if you're doing, a 30-minute strength training routine and your heart rate's going up as well, that can count as your cardiovascular exercise. So you can mash it together if that works for your current fitness level. Some of us folks might do HIIT, which is like a fancy word. It's high intensity interval training, certainly not appropriate for all people. But if you're someone that does that kind of thing, or CrossFit or boot camp, those kind of buzzwords, that certainly would be kind of a mashup of your cardio and your strength together. I think for most of us, me too, the general population, we're not at that point anymore where we're going to boot camp every morning at 6 a.m. and like killing ourselves. I don't do that. You don't have to do that. If you want to and you love it and it's good for you, go for it. But again, that's another thing of finding what you can do and what you're going to commit to. You know, I am not getting up to go to boot camp at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm not doing it. So, you know, so back to, and I'm not hating on boot camp. Trust me, I like boot camp, but I think for most of us, especially this group here, back to basics is going to get you further than doing something that's maybe just out of a little bit too far out of your comfort zone. And I say that for myself as well. Really, I do. So anything, this is a long-winded question to Tanya, or answer to Tanya's question, but cardiovascular, get your heart rate up. Okay. Weight training, feel your muscles. That's pretty simple, I think. Should make a t-shirt. Okay. All right. So, so the first thing we're actually going to do is, and I can either reshare or send this to Sarah afterwards. Okay. So I've kept things very, very simple because simple works. And that progressive overload we talked about earlier. If you're constantly doing like a million different exercises every time you exercise, it's not that it's bad, it's not, but it's sometimes just sticking with the basics and increasing your challenge is just sometimes easier to manage rather than trying all these different routines. It's a little bit more consistent, right? So the first thing we usually start with, not saying you have to, but when you're doing a total body exercise, usually we start with the larger muscle groups first. So that would be our legs, right? Legs are a large group of muscles. One of our favorite exercises here at Seabury, which is good for everyone, no matter if you're 102, which one of our residents just turned 102 on Sunday, or you're 22, is a chair stand. Now, there's different ways you can modify. There's different ways you can challenge with your chair stand. Chair stand is simply a squat. It's a squat, the most functional exercise you can do. And functional means it's something that we do on a daily basis, right? So we want to be able to do it. We want to be able to get up out of our bed. We want to be able to use the restroom without a problem, right? Sitting down, standing up. I know some of us, it's like we laugh, but when you can't do it, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh. So the chair stand is one of the first, one of the first things on my list because it's one of the best things. And obviously there's different ways you can modify and challenge. So I'm going to show you just 3 different things that you can do, starting with the chair stand. You don't have to do it. You can watch me. Okay. And then we'll move to body weight squat, which is simply just a squat with our own body weight. And then you can also do a weighted squat. So I'm just going to get up and show you those 3 things. I can get up from kneeling so long. All right. Okay, so hopefully you guys can still hear me. So here's our chair stand. If you're at home, make sure you choose a chair that is a sturdy chair. You don't want it to slide. You don't want it to, collapse. You want it to hold your weight, especially if you add weight to it afterwards. Pick the good old wooden, dining room chair if you have one of those. So the biggest thing you want to do is scoot to the edge of the chair, so you're away from the back. I'll move over here. Be a little straight on to camera. There we go. So the biggest thing with the chair stand, if you're able to, is to not use your hands. Now, if you have to, that's okay. You would simply stand up like that. I know my head's going to go out of the screen, so because I'm too tall, but so you can start there. That's fine. If you're able to, we cross our hands over our chest. We get our feet set. We stand up. And we sit down. Pretty simple, right? So what happens is when we do multiples in a row, that's where we get the muscular strength happening. So one other recommendation for how many, repetitions you would do, a repetition would be, 1, 2, and like that. What we generally recommend is between 8 and 15 repetitions. So you count to 8 and then you stop. And like we talked about earlier with the progressive overload, if you start at 8, then maybe you go to 10, then maybe you go to 12, you keep increasing that way. If you don't make it to 8, that's okay. You just start where you're at. You start where you're at. Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 5, maybe it's 2, and that's all right. The big thing is you're starting and you're moving and you're trying. So the chair stand is great. I think probably, well, I don't want to make assumptions. What I would do when you're first starting out with this one is do as many as you can and write that number down so you can keep track of it. And then every few weeks, maybe you could do 1 more or 1 more or 1 more, that kind of thing. When you get to 15, if you get there, I would recommend, instead of doing 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, to rest after 15 or 10, whatever your number is, and then repeat it like we talked about earlier. So you do 2 sets of 10 repetitions. Does that make sense? Hopefully. And that goes across the board. So your bicep curls, your lunges, your whatever else you're doing. Count to 10, rest, count to 10 again. 10's my favorite number. It's rounded. It's easy to remember. Could you do 12? Of course you can, but I like 10. I count to 10, I rest, and then I count to 10 again. If you have knee challenges, a lot of us do, make sure your chair is not too low because it's going to be very difficult to get out of the chair. It's going to bother your knees. So if you have a low chair and that's all you got, stick a pillow or something that's somewhat firm, but not too firm under there, and it'll just raise you up a little bit. So it'll be easier to stand up. So that's a good way to do that. So that's the chair stand. Okay. Get this out of the way. I'd have to back up a little bit. So the next exercise for the legs is the squat. All right. So just going to tilt this up really quick. Okay. So when we're squatting, same rules apply. You do what you can, you listen to your body, and, you modify as necessary. All right. So a full squat, or what I like to call a full squat, basically I'm going to turn to the side. Okay. All right. Now, couple tips. You do not have to sit all the way to the floor. In fact, I wouldn't recommend that. Going to parallel is fine unless you're used to doing a deeper squat, which I would say most of us are not, me neither, okay? If your knees really bother you, and they can, lessen your range or shorten your range of motion. So maybe you're here, right? Okay. If you feel this in your spine, I would put your hands on your legs, okay? Or another great option is to hold your kitchen counter or where your sink is, and you can do, we'll pretend this is my sink. Hold on, maybe I'll hold here. And you're holding on, so it's supported. You're supported, all right? If you find that squatting is maybe not in your program yet, stick with your chair stance. It'll get there, I promise. So squatting, chair stance. Always thinking about pulling in the belly as well. Your feet are about hip width apart, and there you are, squat. So the last thing, just for our back to basics, we can add weights to our squat. So we have chair stand, we have body weight squat, which is just our own body weight. And then we can add weights. Now, you don't have to add weights. It's certainly a lot harder. If you have a lot of knee problems or a lot of back problems, I would stick to your own body weight or stick to your chair stands until you can build up some strength. So these are 4 pounds. I just grabbed them. You can use soup cans. I mean, you can use whatever. You can hold the weights down here. You can have them up here. I kind of like them up here. That doesn't mean you have to do that. So when I'm here, got my weights, here's my squat, right? That's it. And I know you can't see my feet, sorry about that. But one thing you want to make sure, I'm going to come up close. One thing you want to make sure, you don't want your knees going over your toes. So I'll show you what that looks like. You do not want that. That's a no-no. You want to sit. Because it's a squat. It's like you're sitting into a chair. Okay? So again, dumbbells. You don't need them. If you have them, you can try them out. They're just another way to increase your challenge, right? Okay. So the next one I wrote down for legs is, I call them directional lunges. Now, lunges can look very different from person to person. They're very beneficial because they're very good for your balance, which is a big concern for a lot of us. We want to make sure we're balanced and we can recover. If we step out to reach for something, we want to be able to come back to where we started. Seems simple, but again, once you can't do that, all of a sudden you're like, oh, but there is a way you can help. So lunges. The base version of lunges, I call them a weight shift. So you're really just shifting your weight. So bad knees, balance challenges, you just shift your weight. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay, so hopefully you can still hear me back here, but I'm going to go front, I'm going to go side, and I'm going to go back just a little bit. So front, side, and back. Okay. So you notice I did not bend my knees very much because those of us with knee issues, lunges are not great. So I just don't have people bend their knees quite as much. If you have, if you're lucky and you have no knee challenges or anything like that, you can certainly go further. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. This is more advanced. Okay, I'll go kitty corner. So front, side, and back. So you can see those are quite a bit more challenging. Sometimes my knees can do them, sometimes they can't. So you always pay attention to how your body is feeling. You never want to be in pain. That's not the goal, right? Pain is bad. So I like front, side, back. You don't have to do them all in order. You can do all to the front, all to the side, all to the back. If one direction does not work, like forward sometimes is a lot on the knees, you just take that out or you make it very minimal, like the weight shift. And you can also add dumbbells to this. So your arms can hang, hang at your sides as you're doing your lunges. You don't have to do that, but again, if you're trying to increase your challenge, there's a way to increase your challenge. If your balance is a little bit dicey, I would recommend standing behind your chair that you did your chair stands in because you can hang on to your chair. Totally fine. You're still getting the benefits, but keeping it safe. And that's important, especially if you're at home. You don't want anything to go wrong. Okay. So the next one for our muscle groups is our chest. So there's a couple things you can do here. I actually put, I don't know if I'll demo that, but push-ups are a great exercise to do. Now, are we going to do military push-ups on the floor? No, we're not, but we're going to do them on the wall or we're going to do them on the counter. So I don't know if I could get on the wall, but here, I'm going to turn my camera for a second. So pretend this is your kitchen counter, right? There it is. Get yourself on the counter. Get yourself back a little bit. And you do your push-up. Right? I know it looks a little weird because I'm at the ballet bar, but you can probably envision that in your kitchen. That's a push-up. It's a great upper body exercise. It's a good core exercise. It's safe. Just don't stand on one of your rugs. You don't want the rug to slide out from under your feet. But that's a wonderful one to do, especially if you have shoulder challenges or your strength is a little bit lower right now. Push-ups on the counter or the wall. If you're doing them on the wall, your hands are just flat on the wall, about eye level, and you do your push-ups that way. That's a great way to get your upper body strength started. I think maybe, let's keep it at that for now. I was going to show something on the floor, but I think I'm going to skip that. We'll have to do a part 2. I don't want people feeling like they have to get on the floor when you don't. All right, so your back muscles are the next big group of muscles. So I'm actually going to stay over here because I'm going to use the ballet bar to show you guys. I'm going to grab something really quick. So I have one of these, okay, exercise tubes. Some of them have handles. Some of them are just like bands. If you don't have one, don't panic. You can certainly go out and get one. You can order them from Amazon if you want. You don't need to, but I wanted to show you in case you guys have this little guy, okay, or something similar. I might just stay on my knees. This will be easier. So you loop it around your banister on your staircase, your doorknob, your bedpost, something like that. Okay. Nice and tall. Squeeze. This is a row. Okay. So that's a standing row. That's a very good exercise to do for your back muscles and your posture. Again, you don't have to run out and get one of those things, but they're really easy and really inexpensive, and you can do a lot of stuff with them. I'm sure they have it at Ocean State Job Lot, I'm sure, or at least Amazon, positive. So the other one you can do is a one-arm row. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm going to stand up though. Okay, so we have our weight, we have our soup can, we have our water bottle, whatever we've got, okay, our milk jug, fine. And you're holding it in one hand. Okay, so this is in my left hand. I'm going to put my right foot in front, and I'll turn to the side in a moment so you can see the side version. My right hand is on my right thigh, okay? I'm engaging my belly. I'm leaning forward, and I'm pulling my elbow to the back of the room. Now, this requires a bit of balance, okay? Hold your chair if you need to. Here's a side view. Okay, that's a one-arm row. It's a great option. If you're not into standing, which some of us aren't, you can do it seated. Right, here I go. I'm seated, but I'm still doing it. Great option. Good for the back. Similar muscles to the tube, but just a different position. So that's the one-arm row. Really good exercise for the back. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so let's see, biceps curl. All right, so bicep curl. We talked about that earlier. The nice thing about a lot of weight training, you can do it in the chair if that's where you're at. Nice and tall. Sorry, you can't see my feet, but you can see my upper body. Up and down, soup cans, whatever. Up and down. Bicep curl. Okay. So again, all these exercises that I'm showing you, you're going to count to maybe 8, hopefully, or less if you need to, and no more than 15. So just keep that in mind. So like for each exercise, you'll count to 8 or 10, whatever your number is, and you just keep moving through it. So tricep 2 ways. Tricep can be hard to hit if you have shoulder challenges, because some of us cannot get our hands over our head. We just can't do it for whatever our reasons are. So I'm going to show you 2 ways. One way for shoulder issues, the second way for non-shoulder issues. And again, this is just tip of the iceberg exercises, but they're simple, which is good. So first one in our chair, we did it earlier, okay? So for the chair stand, we were sort of, going up and down, right? For the tricep, which is this guy, okay, back of the arm, we're going to be in that same position, hands on the chair. Hopefully you have a chair with arms. If you don't, I'll get back to you on that. Basically, you're here, and it's all about your arms. So you're not using your legs. Up and down. This is a really good one. Up and down. So if you're someone that has trouble getting out of your chair, this is a good place for you to start, because you're going to work on all of those muscles and strengthening them so you can get out of your chair easier. You are. So if you're used to going to the gym or anything like that, this is replicating a tricep dip at the gym. But for most of us, this is very good. I do this sometimes just to warm up, just to warm up my muscles. So tricep number 2, pretend I'm standing. So you can take one weight or no weights. You're going to bring it up overhead and you're going to do this, okay? That's called a tricep extension. It's a little difficult for some of us to get in that position, right? So there's other exercises too, but like I said, maybe we'll have to do a part 2 for this, but those are 2 ways you can hit that area. Don't force this if it's not feeling right. If you're feeling anything up here other than, a little bit of stretching, say, you know what, maybe that's not for me right now. I'm going to stick with the chair version. There are other versions too, but those are kind of just your basic tricep. But the chair press up is really good. Don't hate on it. Even if you're a gym rat, don't hate on it, because you really can get some nice work there without completely stressing yourself out, which is what it's all about. We want to pick stuff that we can do, that we're going to commit to. All right. And the last one for your arms, again, keeping it simple, is a shoulder press. So I'm going to not use weights because you don't have to. You can do it this way. Okay. Sorry, I'm still out of the camera. I have to shrink a little bit. All right. Now, I actually prefer and think it's a little bit safer to be here, up and down. You see how I'm a little more narrow? So from the side, okay, this is not wrong, but again, just coming from the population that I work with and some of my own joint challenges, this sometimes is a little bit difficult for the shoulders. You can see the motion is different. So when you come here, it's just a little bit safer. Again, you can try each one and decide what's good for you. You can do both versions. You can. If you're not using weights, it turns into more of a range of motion exercise, which is not a bad thing. We're trying to keep our joints moving and lubricated. Or if you're just starting out and this is tiring, that's where you start with no weights. Totally fine. Then maybe you add 1 pound or 2 pounds or 3 pounds or whatever. So that's a shoulder press, working your shoulder muscle. So we've gone through all of the body except your core. Now, we've thought about our core because we've been engaging it, but we haven't done anything really specifically for the core. So a great option for core is the counter again. Here's my counter. We can do a plank on the counter. So a plank basically is a push-up position, but you're not moving your arms, all right? So maybe I'll just stand my knees. You're here. Well, maybe not. You can't see me. Sorry. Okay. So again, here's my kitchen sink, my island, whatever I have, okay? Now this is a little lower than your sink probably, but you get the idea. You get yourself in position. So you can't really see that. But you can probably envision what I'm doing, right? I'm just holding it. I'm holding that exercise. You can see my feet. Okay, here's my feet. Now I'm way far away just so you can see, but I'm in a nice sort of straight line. That's why we call it a plank. It's like a wooden plank, really. It's a really good exercise for your core. How do you make it more challenging? Well, you can go to the floor. You can lower, if you have the ability, something lower. You can do knees on the floor, lots of different ways, but you could also do it on the wall. But I think if you haven't done planks before, start on your kitchen counter. Maybe hold it for 10 to 12 to 15 at the most seconds. Think about bracing your core and breathing the whole time. Big time. So the last thing I want to show, I have dying bug on there, but I do want to show the bridge though. Maybe I'll show the bug, we'll see. So I'm going to move you guys down. Okay, so here I am, I'm right here. So you do not have to get on the floor. You don't. You can do this in your bed, which is absolutely fine. If you can get on the floor, go for it. But we always laugh here at Seabury because everyone's like, yeah, I can get down, but getting up is not so easy. So safety first. Certainly, if you need to work on getting up and off the floor, that's a good thing, but just be careful, all right? So the last thing that I'll show, I think, for today is the bridge, because I know we're running out of time. So the bridge is a really great exercise, okay? So we're laying down. It's always good to do a few pelvic tilts first. Hopefully you can hear me. A pelvic tilt, you're kind of pulling your belly in a little bit, right? A bridge, you're going to lift your hips. So pelvic tilt is this. That's hard to see, but right? A bridge is this. Okay, pelvic tilt, bridge. Very, very good exercises. Anyone who's done therapy probably for those areas has done some kind of bridge before. It's a really good exercise. You know, can you make it harder? Yeah, you can. You can do 1 foot. You know, there's lots of things you can do. So that was a lot of information. Let's open it up for any questions if anyone has any. But basically, all those are pretty basic exercises that you can make a little bit easier, a little bit harder. You can stay in the middle, you know, and just sort of being consistent is the most important thing, like I said. And we also, I was going to talk about balance, but we ran out of time, so we'll have to talk about that another time for some balance exercises. Is a bridge? Yeah, yes, Ava, yep. So if you do bridges in yoga, that's the same thing. Yep. And guess what? You can do a bridge in the chair. Yes, you can. Yeah. My feet are on the floor, right? Bridge, boop, okay? The chair is a great tool no matter how fit you are. You can use it, I use it, you can stretch in it, you can do exercises in it. It's good no matter what. So the bridge, that's a very good one. So even if you're just starting out, I would pick maybe 8 exercises or 10 at the most. I think that was about 8 or 10. It seemed like more because I gave different options for each one. But if you stick with those basics, that'll kind of get you on the right track, and modify as needed. Modify, modify, modify. You know, if you don't want to get on the floor, stay in your chair. If you need to hold on to the wall, you know, it's okay. It's really okay. A lot of what I do here at Seabury is figuring out how we can do exercises without getting on the floor or bending our knees or, you know, things like that. We also have very fit people here too, but it's nice knowing that no matter where you are in your fitness journey, there's always something you can do. Always, always.